Good evening, I'm John Carter and welcome to Poland Daily. The ruling Law and Justice Party held conventions in the cities Sieradz and Piotrków-Trybunalski. The leader of the party, Jarosław Kaczyński, participated in both meetings. During his speech at the Sieradz convention, Kaczyński said that his party is on the right path and they will stay on it. He asked the participants to help his party continue their march on this good road.
Szanowni Państwo, doszliśmy do takiego momentu.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the time when we have to summarize 4 years of our term of office. Another decision for our society is ahead of us. The Polish parliamentary elections are ahead of us. If we want to shortly summarize our term of office, we can say that we are on the right path. And we're going this way, but there is still a long way to go. We still need to put a lot of effort in to make Poland look like it should. It should look the way it would have had the country had more historical luck after 1949 and after 1989. This is one truth. The second truth is that we should congratulate ourselves, because we have done a lot.
The Scandal of Hate campaign, led by the opposition party Civic Platform MP Krzysztof Brejza, is making increasingly bigger waves. According to the Polish public television, a few years ago, Mr. Brejza created and managed the activity of a group of internet trolls operating in the Inowrocław City Hall, where his father has been mayor for almost 2 decades. The paid trolls slandered political opponents. Ireneusz Stachowiak, former vice mayor of Inowrocław, commented on the latest revelations.
We are having a political scandal on our hands, which is creating and directing a big hate campaign over the internet. The group of trolls were instructed how to protect themselves from being traced on the net, and were given access to a special Tor network brought to the Inowrocław City Hall via a special cable. The social media hate was aimed at political opponents. With very high probability, we can say that the people who worked on this hate campaign are the same people being investigated in money funneling out of city coffers in order to finance all of this. The alleged perpetrators are also testifying that part of that money was directed to finance the MP Brejza's election campaign. It is a scandalous development. This is good reason to demand that Krzysztof Brejza would disappear from the political scene and from public life. I have repeated multiple times that the chairman of Civic Platform shall make a decision to remove Mr. Brejza. One, from the function of head of the election headquarters of that party, and second, block the participation of this MP in the new election campaign until the whole truth is known. The transcript of the exchange made between phones brings to mind the script of a gangster movie.
A serious breakdown occurred this morning at the Czajka sewage treatment plant in Warsaw, following the sewage collector on the left bank of the Vistula River becoming damaged. Emergency staff held a meeting and the president of the capital, Rafał Trzaskowski, announced that the human waste will be directly dumped into the river. Thousands of litres of unfiltered sewage is flowing into the Vistula every second. The sludge wave is moving north towards Płock, where emergency staff are waiting. The government have offered help in resolving the crisis.
We had a breakdown of the collector, which is responsible for moving some of the sewage from the left side of the Vistula River to the Czajka treatment plant. The city sewage and water enterprise made the decision to pour the sewage to the Vistula River. We will keep monitoring the situation and fully cooperate with all the state institutions to resolve the issue. We will keep you posted on further developments.
The funeral of the director of the companies PGB and Rafałko, Jerzy Wiśniewski, was held in Poznan today. Wiśniewski was a good friend and investor in Telewizja Republika. He died suddenly last week at the age of 62. Many people today said goodbye to him at a holy mass.
When he was in a good mood, he used to jokingly say, "my consigliere," but his real consigliere was late attorney Maciej Bednarkiewicz, who I owe it to because he said to me, "Be with him, don't leave him." I'm here to the end. I witnessed a situation where Jerzy, wanting to help, promised millions for a great cause. He made this promise when we didn't know if we were ever going to get back up on our feet, if the restructuring would work. He had to borrow money to do what he promised. It worked. I don't know how, but it worked. In the end, he said, "See, Darek, the more good we do, the more good comes back to us."
The city of Włocławek in central Poland is getting ready for a major event. Mid-September, dozens of thousands of Catholics from all over the country will gather in the city's airport in order to show support for the church and defend the Christian faith against a wave of godless propaganda.
The meeting organizers are a group of young Catholics who aim to make Poles aware of the danger of losing faith is real and near. Propaganda of sexual revolution and consumerism has stripped other European nations of their faith. The same could happen to Poles.
Chcemy prosić o wiarę. Po prostu, że
We want to ask for faith. We spoke a lot with priests and among ourselves, and we found that our basic spiritual problem that we can see in public spaces, in families, in Polish state, is a lack of faith in God. If we start to search for the reason of various problems and horrible happenings we encounter today, as well as physical attacks on the church, we have to look deep for the cause. How did this begin? And I believe the reason is a lack of faith in God.
Maciej Bodasiński is an award-winning filmmaker. In 2017, he organized Rosary to the Borders, a prayer meetings where millions of Poles went to the borders of the country to pray with rosaries. This action was repeated across the world and gathered quite a lot of press coverage. The gathering in Wrocławek is scheduled for September 14th at the local airfield.
Thank you very much for joining me here this evening at Poland Daily. I'm John Carter. Stay tuned after the break for Poland Daily weather. It's followed by the culture, then it's the history, and finally the travel.
Hello, and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. The forecast for tonight calls for heavy rain in most regions of the country, with thunderstorms in Szczecin. The seacoast will see partly cloudy skies and a temperature of 20 degrees. The rest of the country can expect a warm evening with temperatures of 17 to 21 degrees centigrade. Tomorrow, the weather will take a turn for the worst, as we can expect thunderstorms throughout the country. The temperature will be very high, varying from 28 to 33 degrees. The next 3 days will bring showers and thunderstorms, which will concentrate around the eastern, southern, and central regions of the country, and by Sunday we can unfortunately expect the rain clouds to reach the western coast of Poland. That is all for now. I invite you to stay with us and to join us later on for Poland Daily Business.
Poland Daily Business Edition, and we will tonight talk about Donald Trump's visit in Poland. But first, we'll talk about Donald Trump's purchases or attempts to purchase Greenland from Denmark. Artur Wróblewski of Lazarski University is our guest. Sir, welcome to the show.
Hello.
So, why the issue has been raised in recent days?
Because President Trump planned to visit Denmark, so he asked Prime Minister Ms. Frederiksen, hi, how are you? Would you please sell me the Greenland, part of Denmark? Of course, it's the autonomous territory, but it's controlled by Denmark. I would not laugh at this offer because the United States already bought part of Denmark Kingdom. It was 100 years ago in 1917. The United States bought Virgin Islands, which was divided before between Denmark and the British, and it was sold to the United States in 1917. So we have a precedent. That's why maybe President Trump decided to talk about Greenland. But I think that there is something behind the door, something under the desk. We do not know details of this, but I think the Trump offer was to some extent provoked by something. And if you are interested in the North Pole, in the Arctic, you must see great expansion of Chinese influence in this area and also Russian influence in order to secure so-called Northern Sea route, which would run from the Pacific to the Atlantic and which would allow to expand not only economically, for example, I'm talking about China now, but also militarily, because you can, for example, establish there a military base. Between Shanghai and New York, we have almost 12,000 kilometers, but between the North Pole and New York, we have only 3,400 kilometers. And if you look into the history, you will see that between 1997 and 2017, the Chinese organized 8 expeditions to explore the Arctic, which is considered a part of human heritage. However, they approached even Denmark 15 years ago to buy a small part of Denmark there in order to establish something. This offer was done by Mr. Nubo, a Chinese businessman. He also approached a small place, Kirkenes in Norway, in Norwegian archipelago, and he wanted to buy a small piece of Norway. He actually said that he wants to construct a golf course over there. However, probably Mr. Trump, this is my intuition, was told by American secret services, special services, that Chinese are actually approaching secretly some of those Arctic countries. Let's remember also that the Chinese Republic, the Chinese People's Republic, is also a member with the status of observer only, but a member of so-called Arctic Council. And last but very important information, the melting ice in the Arctic area can open this Northern Sea route and cut distance or time of traveling or moving ships and goods between China and the Atlantic by half. So instead of swimming through the Suez Canal, for example, Chinese could open up the territory. That's why they are very much interested in expanding influence there, and I believe that Trump's, some people say, stupid approach, stupid step, was actually provoked by something Chinese organized.
This is also very interesting in the light of this Silk and belt.
One belt, one road.
One
the
belt,
Silk,
one road. Yes.
Road.
We
of
have
course.
right now the trains that are moving in about 2 weeks to 3 weeks from China to
which
Poland.
Is cutting distance.
Yes, and the ships are sailing about 6 weeks, depending on the size and speed of the ship. If we have the ship that can cover that distance in 2 weeks, we are in a different logistic world.
Of course, and we also should look into very interesting article which was published in May by Alexandr Shirokorat. He's a Russian historian of military issues, and he wrote this article in Niezawisimoy Gazeta, and he actually pointed to the special program to construct new submarines besides those existing in China, like submarine type 094 and a new generation of submarines called submarine type 096 with the new intercontinental ballistic missiles JL-3 and probably Chinese could try to acquire somewhere the military bases in the Arctic, in order, for example, to locate its military bases over there. The Chinese actually protests against Niezawisimoy Gazeta and this article, so they became a little bit irritated. But I believe that the same way the United States has its own military base, it's a intercontinental ballistic missile and radar base in Thule in Greenland, and they control the area over there. They acquired it, I believe, in 1952. So maybe the Chinese also have this ambition to install something, but before they install, they must to acquire something. And they probably tried to approach Norway, certainly, and Denmark before through private partners and communications. But let's remember that Huawei, it's also allegedly a private company, but we know it's a secret, it's an agent of the Chinese government.
It's a part of the Chinese army. Sir, thank you very much for this conversation. Artur Wróblewski, PhD of Lazarski University, was our guest tonight, and very interesting angle to this story that after this conversation does not look that funny at all.
Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily Business Weather. Tomorrow the forecast will bring showers and thunderstorms throughout Poland. We can expect temperatures of 28 to 29 degrees in the north, with the temperature gradually rising in the central and southern regions of the country, varying between 30 to 33 degrees centigrade. In Europe, the weather will vary, with showers in Scandinavia, thunderstorms in Warsaw and Bern, while the rest of the continent can expect partly cloudy skies, with Rome as the only exception with clear skies. The coldest cities will be Oslo and Dublin at 19 degrees, while the warmest spot will be Athens at 33 degrees. That is all for tonight. I thank you for joining us, and I wish you all a very pleasant evening.
Good day, everyone. My name is Maria Kądzielska, and this is Poland Daily Culture. We have in studio with us one of the most talented young Polish vocalists. Ladies and gentlemen, Marta Zalewska.
Happy to be here.
She sings, plays a guitar and violin, and recently published her debut album. But before we dig up all Marta's music secrets, let's listen to one of her songs.
Zadajesz ból, lecz nadal do mnie mów, bo pośród słów ja mam swój dom i chowam się w nim, póki brzmi twój głos. A gdy ucichnie, zniknę wraz z nim, bo byłam o krok już blisko, tak, lecz mur ktoś wstawił między nas. Kurczymy się, idąc pod wiatr, razem, a przecież każdy sam.
So you're a musician, vocalist, guitar player, violin player, but recently you became also an actress. You play in the musical Once in Roma Theatre, a part called Reza. How did you get there? What is the idea? And what is special about your character?
Oh, it's a long story. Yes, I get the experience of being an actress, and it's really fascinating. Of course, mainly I'm a musician, but this Once musical is so specific that Roma needed musicians who can act, or try, at least, and actors who can play the instruments and sing, because there is no orchestra, there is no band that play the songs, but the cast, the 12 people, everyone is singing and dancing and acting and playing live.
Damn.
So
damn
it's difficult, yes.
Incredible.
And rehearsals were really, really hard, but I think the final product is great. I play Reza, which is it's a Czech girl who plays the violin, and that's a friend of the main character, the girl that we all know from the movie from 2006, I guess.
So my question naturally is that we have a great movie from 2007, which is very sensitive production. We all wept seeing her walking around with vacuum cleaner and being poor, but trying to find her way in the world, and especially in music, and not giving up her dreams. What can a musical add to this production? Like, why audience should go to the musical theater to listen to it instead of just putting a DVD on a great British version of this history, of this story?
First, I would say that if you know the movie so well that you can speak all the lyrics with the actors, and you want some more, then go to the musical. But another thing, I think it's really a good entertainment. I say entertainment because Glenn Hansard's music is wonderful. It's great music, and in the movie you can hear his songs sometimes only played with the guitar itself, singing in the guitar, or really small. Let's say one's musical adds not only some story to this, but also it's wide musically because you have 12 people playing. Not only Glenn Hansard with his guitar, but 12 people. There are 4 acoustic guitars, 2 violins, 1 cello, the piano, and we all sang together. There is a wonderful version of the song called Gold, and it's a cappella, totally without instruments, and you can't find that in the movie.
Okay, so there are some added elements. I myself, I have to confess that I've watched once on Broadway a few years ago. I was actually disappointed a lot. I paid so much money to see something which they tried to make hilarious, because they changed the main character from this delicate, sensitive Czech girl to, I would say, robust, with full of heavy jokes. I mean, actually Czech girl, but she behaved very much like an American or British. So, and it didn't work, it didn't fix together. It was far-fetched, it was hard to believe, and maybe because I'm so used to the film version that I couldn't take this new one, but I was disappointed. So how do you approach to the topic? Do you make any changes, other changes? And how the characters are shaped?
Of course, the scenario is the same, but I think our main characters are very sensitive and keeps this sentiment. It keeps this sentimental way. The musical still it has some comedy in it, of course, and there are hilarious moments. I can say that it's different, but I think Roma Theatre managed to keep the right balance between the sadness and the funny stuff. And personally, I think it's really it's good to see people from the stage, from my experience, to see the audience once crying and then laughing totally, because I think that's what art should be about: emotions, big emotions.
So musicals are about big emotions, and the show, combining singing with dancing, opening this musical door usually leads to many crazy ideas and projects. Are you a fan of musicals? Would you play in any other one?
I love Hair, of course, because of my interest of 60s. So.
If they play Hair,
yes, I would.
You
try
are in the cast
to get the role of something, even not someone, to stand on stage with a flag. No, whatever. I really love the music from Hair musicals, so maybe someday. But of course, I'm into my music and my albums. But maybe sometime I'll find the time to be a part of some other musical. Who knows?
You sing in Polish in once. Is it hard? It was the translation, also working with Polish lyrics. Any challenge? Does it change also those songs? How does it change those songs? Because of course it changes it. Because do you also change your realities for Polish audience, so it's more understandable, or it's more in our culture a little bit?
Michał Wojnarowski, who translated the scenario, did a great job, I think, because it's very important to keep the melody the same way as it was composed, not to change anything because of our language. So he finds this specific way to somehow, make it possible. So the song sounds the same as the original version, but still you can hear our home language. I think it was a huge work for him to do, but he's experienced one, so he managed. I think it would be nice to ask Glenn Hansard, because I'm not sure if you know that he was our guest on our 100th play or the year after the premiere.
Really? So
yes, because he was in Poland
listen.
and he played the concert at Palladium the very next day or the day before, I don't remember. It was a crazy time. And he came to our show.
Do you know his opinion? Or
he said that of course, he doesn't know our language. Of course, he doesn't understand, but he knows once and he speaks once, and he, of course, it's his story, so he understands what is going on. But one thing I would always remember, he said that our version, our Polish version of this Gold a cappella was the best he ever heard abroad. So. Winners. That's really
okay, still
cool.
a question and silly request, but could you give us a small example of a song, or at least the lyrics from Roma? Anything. Just for us.
Well, that's not my song, because the main characters are singing it, but I think the most popular song is Falling Slowly.
Yes.
So it goes... Wsiądź w tonącą łódź, weź kurs na dom, wciąż mamy czas. Something like that.
Okay, I think every viewer of Poland Daily is going to YouTube already right now to listen to Falling Slowly. And I think it's the best ending of this interview. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and welcome to another episode of Poland Daily History. Today, we are in the Praga district of Warsaw, in front of a statue of one of the great war heroes of the Polish Bolshevik War, Father Ignacy Skorupka. This statue is located right here, as he served this very church, and it was from here that his unit set out to confront the enemy. In early August of 1920, the Soviet Red Army was closing in on Warsaw. They were only a couple hundred kilometers away from linking arms with the Soviet Revolutionary Forces of Germany, Austria, and Hungary. Join us as we explore the Polish Bolshevik War, the Battle of Warsaw, and its impact on all of Europe. So during the Polish Bolshevik Wars, the most famous battle would be the one taking place in Warsaw. But I was wondering if you can tell me and elaborate a little bit more about the other small outbreaks of conflicts.
Oczywiście na skrzydłach owego frontu rozgrywały się kolejne bitwy. Zresztą mamy pod Sosnową Górą, pod Cycowem. To są takie bitwy...
Of course, on the flanks of this particular front, there were many other battles taking place there. The Battle of Sosnowa Góra or the Battle of Tyców, these were the smaller battles which still were part of the Battle of Warsaw. Two battles took place at the same time on the two distant places on August 17th. One of them was the Battle of Płock, where a 12-year-old boy who had noticed that an entire unit had retreated despite having a loaded machine gun ready to fire, he was able to fire it at the Bolshevik Cossacks and killed the entire unit going towards him all by himself. He received Poland's highest military order, Virtuti Militari. The second battle was the Battle of Zadworze, where 313 soldiers, led by Captain Zajączkowski, managed to hold off the advance of Budionny's much larger larger cavalry army. They fought for a very long time. Everyone lost their lives in the end. No one survived. Some of them only lost consciousness, but were killed later on. Their bodies were so massacred that it was impossible to identify most of them afterwards. Mrs. Zarugiewicz, a Polish-Armenian woman and mother of one of the never-identified soldiers from Zadworze near Lviv, was asked to choose one out of the 3 coffins with an unidentified Polish soldier. The coffin she chose was buried in what is the most precious monument in Poland today, the tomb of the unknown soldier here in Warsaw. It was in the city of Zadworze where 313 Poles lost their lives, together with their commander, who shot himself in the last moment because he didn't want to be taken captive. He knew that captivity means painful death. After the prolonged defense of Zadworze, the Bolsheviks started to retreat. Then, 2 weeks later, on August 31st, the largest cavalry attack in the 20th century was directed against Budyonny's cavalry army. Practically the entire Polish cavalry attacked near the city of Komarów, located near Zamość, between Lublin and Lviv. They massacred the undefeated Budyonny's army and ended their uninterrupted string of victories. The fact that the Polish units were destroying the Bolsheviks' army one by one became a legend. Finally, Marshal Piłsudski's magnificent maneuver called Through the Three Rivers sealed the defeat. We took over the Niemen River and liberated Grodno, the city where many Poles and Jews lived, and occupied huge areas of the borderlands. After that, the Polish cavalry rushed forward, and this is when the Battle of Korosten and Korystyszew took place. Unfortunately, these areas were given up because the Polish National Democrats, which were in control of the peace negotiations, came to the conclusion that the new Polish state should have a larger percentage of ethnic Poles, and as we know, there were not many of them in the east. So the areas won back to a heavy price and much blood lost were given up. Let us mention that Poles, Belarusians and mostly Ukrainians later died in these areas during the artificial Holodomor famine in Russia in 1931, or during the so-called anti-Polish action in 1937, when the Soviet executed more than 100,000 Poles for simply being Polish. Poles shared the fate of Belarusians and were buried in mass graves in Kurapaty, near the Belarusian city of Minsk.
Polacy podzielili los Białorusinów w grobach pod Mińskiem białoruskim, które noszą nazwę Kuropaty. To jest coś, co poprzedza Katyń.
So you're telling me that the Poles gave some of the conquered territories back to the Russians, and I was wondering, how was that carried out? Was it through a peace treaty, or how did it happen?
No niestety trzeba to powiedzieć, że traktat ryski był swoistym nieporozumieniem dyplomatycznym. Jest to bardzo znamienny przykład, kiedy władza ustawodawcza, jaką był Sejm Polski...
Unfortunately, the Riga Treaty was kind of a diplomatic misunderstanding. This is a very significant example of the legislative authority, the Polish parliament, having an unsuccessful go at performing executive duties. It was a parliamentary committee that concluded the treaty, not the experienced core of Polish diplomats who knew all kinds of legal tricks, but above all, knew how treaties were concluded. The Bolsheviks made contact with Poles much earlier. The first talks took place in Belarusian city of Minsk. The conditions proposed by the Bolshevik side were so humiliating that they would have actually made Poland a country subordinate to Russia forever. We were to have no army, we were to have the so-called citizens' militia, which unfortunately came into existence after 1945. They wanted to introduce the Bolshevik system in Poland. It meant a surrender, which was to be voluntary. But the victorious Battle of Warsaw and Battle of Niemen turned things around. The Polish delegation didn't walk into the trap, despite the fact that it was already announced that the Bolsheviks had already taken everything here. The talks were moved to neutral Riga, the capital of Latvia, and here they were held on legal rules. The Polish delegation consisted of representatives of the parliament and the government, as well as Leon Wasilewski, the first Polish foreign minister. The delegation departed from Gdańsk and Königsberg to Riga. The talks had been held in the House of the Blackheads for 3 months. Unfortunately, Poland wanted to end these negotiations very quickly for 2 reasons. First of all, they wanted Polish prisoners to be set free before winter, and they wanted to do the same with over 60,000 Russian prisoners because they didn't have enough food to feed them, but also because it was the time of the Spanish flu. The Bolsheviks didn't agree, risking the lives of their prisoners, extending the talks. They wanted to spoil the Polish-German plebiscite, which was to take on the March 20th in Silesia. Poles made concessions and agreed to sign it. The peace treaty was signed on March 18th. What were the conditions of the document? It generally ended the war in the east. The treaty delineated the border. Poland had to give up about 200 to 300 kilometers on the Zbruch River, where the Austria-Hungary and so-called German trenches of World War I were located. The delegation thought it would be a great Maginot Line in the east, so in other words, a great line of fortifications prepared for defense. This way, Poland handed over around 100,000 Poles and Belarusian Catholics living in Minsk to the Soviet, who later murdered most of them in 1937. In that way, the negotiators in Riga were partially responsible for this Soviet crime on our countrymen. The second very important thing, it wasn't specified in what form the Russian state should pay Poland back for having partitioned Poland for 123 years. It was decided to be settled by 30 million rubles in gold. It was a very high amount, but it wasn't specified how it should have been transferred. Germany owed France a similar amount of money. The French were giving the Germans their land back piece by piece. As soon as they got some of the money, they gave up some areas. We gave it all right away. That's why the Soviet side no longer felt obliged to give us anything. The only thing we managed to negotiate was the return of Polish national treasures. It was about 160 tapestries from the 16th century, a holy coronation sword which was found in the Russian Museum in St. Petersburg, and the Lithuanian Metrica. All of that was stolen by the Tsarist army. Everything that had been stolen for 100 years had to be given back. Of course, not everything was given back, but generally the treasures returned to Poland. We had to choose money or national treasures. We chose cultural treasures.
Generalnie skarby wróciły do Polski. No, mając do wyboru pieniądze czy skarby narodowe, wybraliśmy kulturę.
The Battle of Warsaw was the decisive point of the Polish-Bolshevik War. It saved Europe from an imminent communist invasion and gave Poland a vital 20 years as an independent state before the outbreak of the Second World War. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.
Welcome to Poland Daily Travel and our second installment of A Touch of Paradise near Warsaw. That's right, the Campinos National Park. If you like paradise near the big city, this is your place. Our ranger guide, Katarzyna Mikrut, makes us feel at home in the park. We'll be finding out some more about the wildlife. We'll take a trip to the cemetery at Palmyra. And we'll take a look at the different kind of ecosystems. Nearly 40,000 hectares of forest. It's a big park, and it's a lot of fun. So come with me and Katarzyna to Campinos National Forest.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Poland Daily. In this exciting installment, we are yet again in the beautiful Campinos Park. And when I say beautiful, look around. Look behind me. There could be no better evidence of this park's beauty, and not to mention Ranger Kasia, who is also showing us as our guide to the park. We're in a completely different area now. The sun is still shining. Some things are the same. We're still here, but this is a totally different
looking place. What's up here?
You are right. We are on a meadow. So we left the forest and now we will walk through open habitats. The park is not only the forest, and if you don't have much time, this is perfect place to visit, because you can come here to Truskav by public transport and have a walk and see the park in a pill. Can we say that in a pill? That it's like a short visit in the park when you can snapshot of the park.
We can get a good snapshot here. Yeah.
Yes, because
okay, that seems true.
When during
if you say it, it is true.
during short walk, you may see open habitats like here, meadow, dunes, marshes, everything.
Which we've seen all examples of in our series.
But we've been driving by car from different places.
That's
and
right.
here,
but right here we can see everything.
Yes, right. This is the perfect place.
And it's close to Warsaw. It's right on the edge.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is one of the most popular entrances to the park. And this is also, please, let's go. So this is really good for weekends, for a short walk in the afternoon. You will see everything.
You can drive out here and go for a walk and get
if
right
you are
out of the city.
If you are coming from other country and you don't have much time, and in the same time you would like to see the nature, this is perfect place.
So you would just head to Truskov. Somebody told me, probably it was you.
Probably.
I think it was you recently, like a few minutes ago, before we were on camera, that Truskov is an extremely old village, right?
Yes, first information about Truskav comes from the 12th century. But if you enter the village, you won't see any old buildings or houses, nothing.
Yeah.
Because during Second World War, Truskav was burned by Nazis twice.
Twice? So good they burned it twice. Good old Nazis. Gosh, you know, the more I hear about them, the less I like them.
Happy? Good that
that was a Nazi joke. It's hard to make one of those. It's not really a very funny subject.
Yeah, it's true.
Unless you're Mel Brooks, I guess. But Truskov, does that mean strawberry? Or not? It doesn't, does it?
There are few theories about the origin of the name.
Right. Yeah.
But there is, in the park, there is a village called Truskavka. So
that is
small strawberry.
That's a little strawberry.
Little.
No, okay, I see. So the mystery of why it's called Truskov may never be solved.
Never.
It could be
we never know.
It could be one for the ages. Yeah. Okay. So and I understand there's a lot of different kinds of birds and a lot of different kinds of wildflowers in the park. Is that true?
Yes, it is true. I don't know all names in English, but habitats like here.
This is particularly flowers, right?
Yes, and those are kept by the park in that form because of special plants which are growing here, and special butterflies which are feeding on those plants. And if we stop mowing, it means that those plants and butterflies will die. So this is, we call that active protection.
Okay, so you're regenerating the...
Yes, we are keeping the habitat in that status, because if we stop doing that, the second succession will come, and everything become a forest. Here on that plate, we may see that the special plant.
The special kind of flower, which we see all around here. Yeah. There's lots of them. I don't know what it is.
Zbiorowiska roślinne łąki.
No idea what that is.
So what kind of plants you can meet in the middle?
It's pretty, yeah. Here's one there. Very nice.
But in the park there are also some invasive species, not only good one which we have to protect. When you meet invasive species, for example, Prunus padus. This is in Latin. Prunus serotina. No, I don't remember the name.
I don't know what we're in trouble because my Latin is terrible. Unlike Boris Johnson, I'm no Latin scholar. Oh, here's our first bridge.
Yes, because when you come here in the spring, the water level is so high that you cannot pass.
You can't walk over this in the spring.
No.
And now it's completely dry, almost completely dry.
It's summer and hot summer, so there's no water.
It's a nice smell, though.
So
this is a very pleasant walk, isn't it?
Yes, with that wind, sounds of nature.
Absolutely. You could easily forget that you're anywhere near the city when you come here. And it's all available. All you have to do is come here.
Yes.
It doesn't cost anything, right?
Maybe a cost of ticket.
Do we have to buy a ticket?
Not for the park, but for the bus.
Oh, for the bus. No, for the park it's free.
For the park is free.
And if you come on your bicycle, you don't even have to pay for a bus, right?
Nothing, nothing. So it's completely free
This
of
is
charge.
wild, yeah. This is really nice. Look at this.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. No, it reminds me of Virginia. This is exactly what it looks like around Jamestown.
You know,
Looks just
we
like
have something in common with United States.
You do? What is it?
We have sister park there, Indiana Dunes.
Indiana Jones?
No, Indiana
I
Dunes.
saw all those movies. What?
It's not the one.
No?
Indiana Dunes
I saw
National
those
Park.
movies. Okay.
It's,
Indiana Dunes.
Yes, Indiana Dunes.
Dunes. Okay.
We have.
I can't say it, right?
We have dunes. They have dunes. We have marshes. They have marshes. We are close to Warsaw. They are really close to Chicago.
Absolutely.
So we have really similar problems. We cope with the same problems. So we became sister parks.
Wow, look at these butterflies.
Yeah, they are very rare.
I haven't seen any butterflies today, have you? You seen
No,
one?
it's
I
not
haven't
the
seen one.
period.
When is the period? Is it early spring?
Spring.
Early spring, yeah. Because this looks like perfect place for butterflies, doesn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
That's why it's mowed by the park to keep it.
And that's why that's there, I guess, yeah. So it doesn't take a naturalist to figure that one out, does it? If I can do it. So, yes, Indiana Dunes Park. And how long has this cooperation been a long time? Or?
More than 10 years.
More than 10 years, yeah.
And we have some exchanges. We are doing some common projects on for example, on wetland restoration, or how to keep water in the park. So we have lots of
And is it really
common.
similar, this park? Does
Yes,
it look quite
we
similar?
have still some villages in the park, in the territory, and they also have. We are buying land, purchasing land from private people for the purposes of nature conservation. They do the same. We have, because we are close to the park is close to capital city. There is big pressure from urbanization. Of course, you can imagine that everybody would like to live here, so close to the city and in the same time in the nature.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we have to keep that area.
But it's protected because it's a national park, so it's protected by the government, and you can't, that's it. You can't live here.
You cannot
unless you're already living here or you live somewhere that was already existing house or something like that, right? Okay. So it's safe for the time being.
Let's hope it will stay like that.
I hope it does. I want to thank you very much.
welcome.
I could spend the rest of the day talking to you because it's fascinating stuff.
It was a pleasure to have you here.
Oh no, we really enjoyed it. Me and the team, and we appreciate it, and all the people watching Poland Daily Travel appreciate it as well. So this is Pani Katarzyna. She has been our guide. She is a ranger here. I'd also like to thank Peter, her colleague, who's been driving us around and been very helpful as well, but does not appear on camera. Okay. And I'd like to thank the crew as usual. Thanks, guys. Stay with us for more Poland Daily Travel. who knows what could happen next. Wave goodbye. Let's go.